Awesome. Incredible. I walked to work. I did it, people. I walked to work. I will say this. Almost walked off the sidewalk a couple times.
You're what we would have called in the olden days in the Wild West a hardy man.
I am a hardy man. You know what? It's not that cold. It's like 32. I'm okay with that. There wasn't that bitter wind and stuff, but my goodness me, stay off the roads. Even today, very few cars went by our apartment, but some people are really not meant for this. There's a person, a little spin out right across the street from me. They got in the car. They were in the car for 2 seconds, and I'm like, they're going to crash. Have you ever watched somebody and go, I'm watching this happen in real time? And it is awesome, though. I am loving this.
One of my favorite snow stories is I had just moved to Atlanta, and an ice storm just pounded the city. And I didn't have any – I would literally just moved in the apartment, so I didn't have any food. I thought, well, I got to go get something to eat. I'll just hit an open restaurant. And as I'm driving to this restaurant, I cross a bridge, and the car next to me spins out, goes into the other lane, and absolutely pulverizes the front of this truck. And I looked at that and went, I think I'll go home.
I get it, right? Because my other show, I'm doing a lot of stuff in Dallas late at night. I was out there working with them like throughout the night last night because they're going through it, and they got a bit of an ice storm coming. And it's if you don't know what to do, if you don't know how to drive in it, it's funny. You can tell people who know how to drive in it, people who understand it, and people who just don't. And oh my God! But I will say there was nobody on the road. All that was out there was me and a guy and his dog just wandering around. Because the dog was loving every second of it. My dogs, by the way, I took them out this morning when it was snowing. They have little coats. My wife's got them coats, snow jackets. They tucked their head out. They looked, and it was snowing. They turned around. And they're like, we are warm weather dogs, so we're just going to poop in your front room.
We much prefer to move back to Arizona.
Oh, my Lord. This is awesome. My daughter woke up, and she thought it was the greatest day. She's like, Dad, this is probably the best day ever. And so we went down this morning and started playing in the street, just running around, snowball fights. But it is slick out there. Chill, relax, enjoy. We're going to have a lot of fun today. By the way, today is the second Friday in 2025, which is known as Quitter's Day. We're going to talk about that because the numbers behind Quitter's Day is insane because everybody goes, I'm going to make my this and I'm going to do that. And then they get to the middle of the second week and they're like, I quit. So today's officially Quitter's Day. We will talk about that for sure, among other things to talk about. And I showed Belle, you can relay my friend's house destroyed like you could not believe.
Oh, that was just, dude, I don't know what to compare that to.
Dresden, looks like Gaza.
You look at the results, and it's like, how did this happen in the United States?
Yeah. There's a lot of, it's the perfect storm. Literally the perfect storm. So I was talking to my meteorologist buddy, Tom Hale, and he tells me, he says, Rogan brought up the other day the fact that he had talked to a fireman, and the fireman told him, it was a couple of years ago, that they've only ever been lucky because if the Santa Ana winds ever come essentially from the north, everybody's screwed. That's where they came from this time. Normally they come out through the desert and over. This time they came out over the ocean, down through, like from Seattle essentially, all the way down. That's what's brought a lot of this stuff through here. That's what caused it to go in another direction. And the destruction is my buddy's place. He said, it looks like it looks like I'm in Hiroshima. There is nothing. In a gorgeous home, there's nothing left. Even stuff that, because I'd been there 1,000 times, stuff that the metal is just gone. It is amazing what has happened. And he said, he goes, when we left, he goes, we knew we probably weren't going to, come back and find anything, but we thought there would be something. And there's nothing at all. So, he's fortunate. He's all right. So he said, look, I'm fine. I got nothing, Chad, I got nothing to worry about. He goes, we'll rebuild and stuff. But those people are going to be going through hell for a very long time. And you remember all that craziness with it, was it Katrina? They've got still people living in, those homes. How long do they live in those temporary homes in Katrina? For years. And California, this is never going to be ever the same. These places are never going to rebuild in any real way. And if it does, it's going to take decades for it to do. And who's going to insure them? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first, Donald Trump today. The demon that is, the felon.
After careful analysis, in obedience to governing mandates, and pursuant to the rule of law, this court has determined that the only lawful sentence that permits entry of a judgment of conviction without encroaching upon the highest office in the land is an unconditional discharge.
Essentially, you're like, all right, you're guilty. Now go away. Have fun. And he said, Godspeed. That was the judge there. Everybody's saying, why did we even have this today? Like, why do we do this? We know he wasn't going to do anything. It was simple because the process had started, and you don't stop the process because it diminishes what the court is supposed to be. So he was never going to, but if he didn't win in November last night, he was never going to jail anyway. Someone's never put him in jail. Could never do that. So he's done and dusted. He's free. He was never going to jail. And they said that for years, by the way. Watching people freak out about this, the Secret Service, who barely can defend him anyways, they're like, hey, guys, we're not good out here. I don't want to be around real criminals.
You know what happens every time he gets a new agent?
What?
He taps his ear and goes, don't let this happen.
Don't. See this here? This ain't going to happen again. So he did his usual thing. I'm innocent, blah, blah, blah. The process has to complete itself. He could not file for an appeal until it had all been run through. Because a lot of people are like, what about his appeals? He can't file an appeal until the sentence has been given. And
he tried to stop the sentencing, but the Supreme Court turned him down. They wouldn't hear the argument.
That's a hard no on that one. So he's,
And two of his nominees joined the other three liberals in that decision.
Yes, which is I didn't think it was bad. I think this sentence should go through because there's no reason for it not to. You're not going to jail. Now you got street cred, right? Like now you got some serious street cred. You and Martha, think about this. You and Martha Stewart, felons. Snoop Dogg, not a felon.
Facts.
Oh, my God. So this will be, it's interesting, though, watching people freak out and people get excited about it because it doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. This is all show. Welcome to the world of politics 101 in today's world where everything is show. It's all big. It's all showy. It's all this stuff. None of it's reality. The reality takes place behind closed doors. The reality is going to take place with, can you get something done? And I don't know what it's going to look like in a week or so because I know a lot of people are meeting with him and a lot of his people are now meeting with other senators. And the fact that Fetterman is going there is hilarious. He's going to Mar-a-Lago, Fetterman, and I think he said Trump should make him the Pope of Greenland. It's my spirit animal, baby. He's my spirit animal. So now we move forward with this. Trump's got, like I said, he's got 16 to 18 months to get some stuff done. I don't know what that looks like as far as who's going to get through and who's not going to get through. I think now it's funny because doctors and pharmaceutical people are coming hard for RFK Jr. The Senate, Democrats are warming up to him a little bit. As far as the rest of his people, I don't think he's going to have any problems. I think they thought, you know what, just let him do it. Let him get through. Let's see what happens. Let's put it all out there. Well, they're going to put it all out there. And that's exactly what we want. And you got to get going from jump. And this is where Republicans, sometimes, if you're, as they would call you, a rhino, you're going to have to bite your tongue a little bit. And sometimes if you're super hardcore MAGA, you might have to bite your tongue a little bit. Everybody's got to accept that you're not going to get everything. The whole thing is the goal needs to be moving forward. Moving forward. Because I understand this. Every once in a while I'll talk to Lewandowski. And it's legacy. His legacy is right now one of insanity when it came to the media. One with, I can't believe that Trump got elected the first time. One of COVID, of his Supreme Court nominees, of all of these things. And then, of course, January 6th, whether he likes it or not, he's saddled with it. He knows legacy is important to him. And he knows what he has to do. And he's got to come out swinging. but he's also going to come out and make sure stuff gets done. I think we're going to find this time less fighting with the media, even though he loves to troll, less engaging. And on the other side of it, I think you're going to find him more focused on business-like kind of attitude towards everything. Go get me what you can, like Reagan used to say, we'll get the rest later. And I think that's going to be something very surprising. And because I think he also understands, hey, man, if I get here and I'm going out for the next 16 months and we don't get any of the stuff done that I wanted to outside of a few executive orders and a little bill here, a little bill there, there a bill, here a bill, there a bill. If we don't get this stuff done the right way, we're going to be in some trouble because you guys might lose your jobs. And that means that my last 2 years is going to be hell. So let's get stuff done. Let's win. Because if we're winning, as he used to say, you're going to get so tired of winning. It's going to be so much the winning, huge, big win.
You'll be so tired of winning, you won't know what to do.
So tired. We're going to have to back up the trucks because the winning will be huge. Oh, my goodness. But I've got an interesting thing and a take on how Trump can take this nightmare that's going on in California and take it from the nightmare that it is and not only help people, but change potentially California in a way that they haven't seen for a very, very long time. So we're going to talk about that today. Quitters Day as well. A bunch of other fun and interesting stuff to talk about as well. And the roads out there. So Ken, can you hear me? Ken.
I can hear you, Brother Chad.
What's happening, man? So where are you located? So I've seen Chris's house. Where are you located?
I am here in my breakfast nook in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Don't you ever, people listening, don't you ever think that people don't get paid enough in radio? He's got a nook.
Hey, Ken? Ken.
Yeah, Brother Bell.
Is it, what do we have today? Is it whiskey or gin?
Neither of those, brother. It is dry January for Brother Ken.
Gotcha.
Dry January. Are you really doing dry January?
I am indeed.
And
I had a little bit too much fun during the holidays.
Oh.
And I got a brand new Iron Maiden t-shirt that I want to fit into.
Nice. Dry January. That was right after inebriated December. I was inebriated.
Yeah. I got to say, how cool is it that we work in a place where our news guy is going, I like Iron Maiden.
I love that.
That's just awesome.
I love Iron Maiden. I love Judas Priest. I used to see Rob Halford all the time in Arizona.
Yeah, that's right. He's a proud resident of Phoenix.
He's lived there for like 35, 40 years.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, so it'd be a trip. You're like, is that Rob Halford? Is that the guy from Judas Priest? He's an interesting character, but rock and roll, man. So you're in your breakfast nook, you're chilling. Is your wiener dogs around?
Yeah, little Fritz, he just came in from outside. We had a bit of some drama there. Apparently some neighbors have their dogs off leash and ran up on Fritz, so my lovely bride had to pick him up quickly and return him inside.
Oh, poor Fritz.
However, Fritz was a good boy this morning. When I took him out first thing this morning, I mean, he loved it. Oh. He hopped out there in the snow, did his business, and came right back in.
That's awesome. That's what I told my dogs this morning. I mean, it made him go out. I'm like, look, we're doing this, right? You guys are going to do this. And it might suck. You're going to do it because I'm not doing this in the house. And so they went. But normally they wander around because it's like a little, like it's almost like an easement that's a dog park. And normally they wander around for 20, 30 minutes. We were out there 4 minutes.
Yeah.
We're like, I'm done. This is stupid. I hate this. I want to go back to Arizona where it's warm. And I'm like, tough. Yeah. You live here. It's better. Deal with it.
Brother Chad, about 3 years ago, we had an ice storm. And this little fella, I think I may have told you this, he held it for 27 hours.
Oh, my God.
He didn't do a thing. I even checked around the house. Didn't find a thing.
The champ right
there. Whenever it finally warmed up enough to where his little belly's not touching that snow, he let loose.
Oh, good boy. Good boy. That's a good boy. You could teach my dog something. Weather, you got the weather, traffic, everything out there. Probably not a lot of traffic. Bell came in, said nobody was on the road. He drove 200 miles an hour.
Is that a problem?
Yeah.
Not if you're the only one out there.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So we're going to do that. We're going to, Ken's got all your stuff all day long here. Make sure you keep it here for all the latest on the snow, the blizzard, snowpocalypse that is happening now. A bunch of other stuff coming up right here. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. It's 2025. Get yourself in shape when it comes to your retirement. You talk to my buddies over at Bulwark Capital. They're awesome. My brother, Zach Abraham, this guy is just amazing. He's the chief investment officer over there. I trust him. I send my family there. I send everybody there. What he wants to do for you is give you a free, like, I just call it, you're going to get a review, right? Like, hey, come give me a second opinion. He'll go through your retirement. He'll talk to you about where you want to go. He'll give you kind of like a plan and, tell you where maybe you're lacking a little bit and maybe you're overexposed because risk management, they're really big on that. Lower risk, lower cost, lower volatility. And it's awesome. Now, here's the beauty of it. It's not going to cost you anything, and there's no hard sales. They go through it all for you, chat with you a little bit, hand it all back to you, and say, good luck. If you're interested, let's talk more. Call them today. Set up a risk review, a second opinion. Call 866-779-RISK today, 866-779-RISK, or go to knowyourriskradio.com, K-N-O-W, yourriskradio.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk, not a guarantee. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Trek 24378.
All right. No crashes to report on the interstates here in Nashville right now. If you are out there traveling, or maybe you have some friends or family who are braving the conditions, you might want to let them know that about 80 miles south of Nashville, northbound on 65, it is still shut down there in Giles County after a semi lost its hydraulic brake system. National Weather Service has updated the snow total predictions. I'll let you know about that and what the Biden administration just did when it comes to nearly 1 million immigrants living in this country, which the incoming administration probably doesn't like. Let you know about that at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's cliche to use the term apocalyptic, but it is apocalyptic in this neighborhood where I am right now. You can hear how quiet it is. There are no humans around this area. Firefighters drive by every now and then looking for any hot spots they need to put out, but everything is gone. Street after street, every home is completely burned down to the ground, burned out cars around the homes, power lines down. Everything is gone.
Looks like it's been bombed. Looks like it's almost a movie set is what it's like. That's the best way to describe it. And my other buddy, he is working out there. I got a couple friends who are firemen, friends of mine, and they're out working right now. And I said, what are you guys doing? They're like, nothing really. I mean, we're going from place to place doing what we possibly can, but we're limited. And we're at the really, whatever the wind and stuff does, you can fight it in certain areas. But the thing is, what he's doing and they're doing is they're trying to get ahead of it and make sure that they can put up a good fight. And because I asked him, I said, dude, so give me the BS, give me the real stuff. Because there's plenty of BS out there that people are throwing around. It's because of this or it's because of that. And then there's real stuff out there. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's devastating. I'm sitting there today laughing, looking at the snowfall out here. And, knowing my friends and some of my family are going through hell. It's a sad situation. But welcome to the world that you probably knew you were going to live in, because you live in a place where there's been fires for centuries and you've dodged the bullet. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about next hour. At what point do you have to accept responsibility for living certain places, whether that's in Florida, on the ocean, knowing what's coming? I mean, some of these things, this isn't a surprise. It's a surprise maybe the time of the year that it's happened and how badly things have gone. But this isn't a surprise that it happened. It wasn't if, but when, and when came. And that's sad. Belle, I'm looking at all the snow come down, man. It looks awesome. I think it's a blizzard. Look at it. It's great. That is awesome. I'm pumped for this. So coming up, I want to tell you about how Trump can take this opportunity in front of him and spin it on everybody's head in a way that I know other people will tell him no, which makes me think he might step up and do something like this, because I think there is a chance here to do something that many people didn't think was going to happen. And it won't be for him, but it will set the groundwork for the Republicans and for the MAGA movement for quite a while. Talk about that. And it is Quitters Day. So the second Friday of January in the new year is called Quitters Day, because everybody comes out and they're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this. And then they quit. Wait till you hear how many people actually quit. It's a staggering number. I thought we were better than that. If you miss any of the show, shame, as Belle likes to say. Shame.
Shame.
You can grab the podcast a little bit later. Follow across all of our social media at Chad Benson Show, Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, check out all of us across. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitch. We got carrier pigeons. You name it. We got it all going on. This is the Chad Benson Show on a very bluzzery, super-duper snow day. It's snowpocalypse, baby. Super Talk 99.7.
It is 12:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We are tracking the winter storm as it continues to make its way across Middle Tennessee. And the U.S. National Weather Service here in Nashville has updated the snow total prediction map. Right now, it looks like everybody north of 40 and east of 65 is going to get 4 to 6 inches before it's all said and done. Now, the heavier amounts, up to 7 to 8 inches, that's for everybody west of 65 and over there in the Waverly area. Looks like Dixon is in that area too. So west of 65, some places could see as much as 8 inches of snow before it's all said and done today. We got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. President-elect Trump expected to appeal the hush money case sentence rendered today. It does not include jail time or a fine. but it does allow its critics to label him a convicted felon. He can't own a gun, but under the special conditions with him being president-elect, he can still vote. And the judge in the case, Juan Merchan, closed the case today by wishing Trump Godspeed in his next term. Just 9 days until Trump takes office, and the Biden administration today announced it will allow nearly 1 million Venezuelans and Salvadorians already living in the United States to stay legally for another year and a half. Homeland Security using what it calls temporary protected status, citing the environment in those countries due to heavy rains, bad weather, is too dangerous for these folks to return. Temporary protected status already granted to 1 million other people from 17 countries. Its future is highly uncertain under the next Trump administration. 200 passengers on a Delta flight in Atlanta had to use a slide to exit the plane today. The pilots aborted takeoff due to an engine problem. 4 people were hurt. And observers say it appears the U.S. Supreme Court's inclined to uphold the law that bans TikTok unless the Chinese company that owns it sells it in 9 days. Emergency arguments held today. The justices weighing freedom of speech rights against national security concerns. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
coming down out there. Be safe. It's blustery, Pooh Bear. I'll tell you that right now. It is really chucking it down. You can't see that because you're in your hovel in there, your veal crate. Old Bell in there. But for me, I look outside the window and I think, my goodness me. This is so awesome. This is so awesome. I mean, this time last year it sucked. I was like, oh my God, it's 80 degrees. I should probably go in the pool. But I'm in snow and I'm enjoying it. I love the cold. I learned to love the heat, but there is a time when you get to the point where it's like, that's not heat. That's punishment. But
He was being roasted alive.
But you know what's weird? As I always tell everybody's like, do you hate being out there when it's hot? I said, no, because I love golf, right? Golf, I play pickleball and golf. Pickleball, I play early in the morning, late at night and stuff. But golf, I would play in the middle of the day. And everybody's like, I can't believe you do that. Why? I can go play the best courses in Arizona, PGA courses, where they play the waste management. Normally, it's $250. For me today, it's $20. Oh, and by the way, I can play 3 or 4 balls at once and practice because nobody's out there. Because nobody's stupid like me. That's why, kids. Quitter's Day is here. Everybody, I want you to listen. This is Quitter's Day. Are you a quitter? I don't think so.
It's National Quitters Day, the second Friday in January, when an estimated 80% of Americans ditch their New Year's resolutions. As always, getting fit is the #1 New Year's resolution. I spoke with celebrity trainer Jillian Michaels. Why do so many people fail when it comes to their New Year's resolutions regarding their health and fitness?
I don't necessarily believe people have the most realistic goals. I'm going to work out 5 times today. It's like, okay, let's crawl, walk, jog, run here. So if you've been sedentary, let's get a step goal in there.
Another top resolution, saving money. But on Quitter's Day, many start blowing the budget.
Don't be so hard on yourself. Set realistic goals. Give yourself a chance to celebrate the small victories.
That's what it's about. Realistic goals. People overestimate where they're going to be in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. So somebody's like, I'm going to be, I'm going to be debt-free and a millionaire in a year. Not unless you win the lottery. But then you think, well, I'll be worth $3 or $4 million, or I can do this with it. You totally don't get what you can do, but you got to make baby steps. And I see it all the time. And I tell my kids this. We do goals. We don't do wishes because I think it's important. And it's important to have a plan. But you break all of those things up into little bite-sized victories. And the other thing, here's a doctor, somebody who knows what this is all about. It's about your accountability buddies.
So this is the nice thing. Having one accountability partner is great. Like, I check in with you, I did it, I didn't do it. But then also having a support system. Yeah. So you need, if you live with a family, whatever it is, like making sure that everything is supporting your goal. Because if you have this goal, but nothing in your life says you can accomplish this, that's also a setup for failure. So you don't want to do that as well. So it's such a good time to really look at the goal and go, okay, I can't get in 5 days a week. What about if I just start with 1 and celebrate whatever it is you have accomplished over the last 10 days. Celebrate it. It really is important in any kind of goal setting to just celebrate those small milestones and also have a growth mindset. Meaning just, all right, I didn't do it today, but I can do it tomorrow.
Again, baby steps. We punish ourselves way more than we should. When we go, man, you know what? I'm going to eat this cookie. I shouldn't eat this cookie. I'm going to do this. And the next thing you feel bad. So you super punish yourself. Then you do something good. And it's just, because we're so much harder on ourselves than we need to be. Little itty bitty baby steps go a long way.
So one of them is to really say, what is it that are the small steps to achieving this goal? So that's really important. So what the science says is that when we make those high-arching goals, if we don't talk about, well, what are the little things? Well, instead of, a donut for breakfast, what am I going to have instead? You have to plan those things out. Okay, I'm going to have a bowl of oatmeal. And so when you can really break it down, that is what science says is what makes it. So a lot of people aren't satisfied with that, though. Oh, big deal. So 2 mornings I did this. Well, actually, the science says it is a big deal. Every single day that you make a positive change toward your goal is something that needs to be acknowledged, at least acknowledged.
Acknowledged. Even if you do eat oatmeal, which I've never liked oatmeal. I find it gross to look at. I'm very much a texture guy. Acknowledge it. Again, you don't want to be quitters. We're not quitters here. We don't quit. Don't quit. It's simple and easy. Small steps go a long way.
Psychology has seen that for a long time where once somebody missteps, they just give up.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that truly is the readjust.
Yeah.
So if I was meeting with someone, I'd say, oh, okay, so this morning you didn't do that. What are we going to do different tomorrow morning? And that really has to be that mindset.
80% of people that started some sort of resolution, whether it be money, weight, whatever it is, quit by today. And a lot of it starts like that. You don't do something one day, and then you're like, well, screw it, I give up. You don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. Don't be a quitter, all right? That's why we love you guys here, right? I'm new. I'm not a quitter. I'm here. Some of you mad at me? It's okay. I'm not quitting. Not going anywhere, right? That's it. You got to keep going forward. Make plans, baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's all you can do. Same thing here. Although if you ate a full elephant, you'd be really fat. How long do you think you could last on an elephant?
Just in terms of like source of protein?
Yeah, like if you were going to
One
chop
person.
it up, keep it, put it in the refrigerator. Not that you're going to want to eat a pachyderm, but if you were, I wonder how long it would take you to get it.
I don't know. That's a lot of meat. Maybe
That is a lot of meat.
Maybe a year, 9 months to a year.
Yeah. If you're eating it every day, you probably get sick and tired. Like, I don't want elephant stew again. Ugh. Donald Trump has a chance to do something here that I think some people are going to think, don't do it. I think some people are going to say it. Some people are going to say, let California eat it all to themselves. And I see it coming already because I've heard from several of you, about, I don't want to pay for anything when it comes to California.
I caution people because there's going to be a lot of guilt laid on Republicans about people don't have insurance, the federal government needs to come in. You just wait a second because they're going to try and force people to again, how many people don't have insurance? Why should the federal taxpayer have to help someone rebuild who did have insurance, who lived in a multi-million-dollar home? The buck needs to stop when it comes to the federal government bailing out the highest tax state in the nation.
Normally, I'd say absolutely. But you've got momentum like you've never had before, the Republicans, in the last 20, 30 years in California. As a kid growing up, and I spent a lot of my life there, went to Europe, came back, lived there for a long time, then I traveled all over again doing radio and stuff. California's always been left, but there was a certain sense of sanity. We'd have Republican governors, but the state legislators would be pretty left. And then somewhere, 20 years ago, it really started to go sideways. And this is the chance, because of the lunacy that people have seen. There was a movement. Trump got more votes there than a lot of Republicans have gotten in a long time. Republicans made a race out of it in places they hadn't before, at the state legislatures as well as in the congressional side for the federal side. He understands that. I think you do everything you can to help people rebuild and remind everybody every day who did it. Not your lame, absolutely useless governor. Not your useless, ridiculous city council and mayor. It was me and the Republicans. It was the American people who didn't want you to turn the nightmare that people in North Carolina had gone through, the nightmare that people had gone through here in Tennessee. We came through for you when they wouldn't. We came through for you. They failed you. If you want to continue to do what you're doing, you're going to get the same thing. And I've heard more people in the last 72 hours, friends of mine who are pretty damn progressive, say they've had enough of this insanity, and they are so beyond frustrated. They're like, if there was a vote today, I'd vote for Trump. And these are people who can't stand anything on the right when it comes to politics. We're best buds, but they can't stand anything on the right. But they would jump at the chance because they realize how bad it is. And you know what's really opened their eyes? Florida and the way that they handled the hurricanes, as well as Texas. And seeing them go from the nightmare 3-4 years ago with that giant ice storm to rebuilding their infrastructure and having zero problems while they're facing a lot of what we're facing today.
I have to tell you, after seeing that press conference, I am flat out heartbroken and outraged. We are sick and tired in LA County of having liberal political leadership play Russian roulette with all of our lives. This was preventable. I'm not saying it could have been stopped, but 3 days ago, we see on the news, there are winds expected of 80 to 100 miles an hour. Are you kidding me? Hurricane force winds. There was nobody on the TV out here in LA except Gavin Newsom doing his dog and pony show talking about what we're supposed to do when this happens.
What are you supposed to do? Nothing. And that's the Brian Claypool there. He's a lawyer. You see him on Fox a lot. He's right about the, you might not have been able to stop it. And, nature will mess you up. Nature will do what nature wants to do. It always has. It always will. There's just some things you're not going to be able to do. But having the chance to have a fight, but most importantly, having leadership, which is what they failed at. They're getting lied to. And when everybody says Trump makes it about politics, which he does, let's be real, he likes to troll, he likes to make it about politics because that's what you do. You never let something go to waste anymore, and you get on it sooner rather than later because we live in an instantaneous society that needs instantaneous feedback and to be fed. 20 years ago, we would have let the dust settled, if you will. But you can't today. You got to take advantage of it.
Nobody had done anything to remove soil and vegetation for the last year. Nobody tested the water pipes. This was not brain surgery. It was predicted. These winds were predicted. And don't believe Karen Bass when she says that an airplane with water could have saved lives in the Palisades. It's pipes. It's proper water. It's not diverting water for fish in California instead of saving human lives. You want to save human lives? Then do your job. Have a plan in place. Harris, there was not an operational plan in place anywhere in LA County.
Nope. And you should have a plan. You should absolutely have a plan. I mean, you get on an airplane, there's a plan in place should something go sideways. There's a plan in place. You get on an airplane, you know exactly, hey, we're going to do this, you buckle up, you do this if something goes sideways. You know the fires are coming. You understand fires are coming at some point in time. You have a plan in place. What's your plan? They failed to plan. Plan to fail. A lot of stuff still to get to on this beautiful Friday out there. Oh, my God, Ken, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. I don't know what the weather's like out where you live in the boonies with Fritz, but it is snowmageddon going on right now.
We've got a little bit of a break right now. It's just kind of spitting snow right now in the borough.
Well, how long are we looking at this? Is this going to be with us through most of the evening?
Yeah, they're still talking about into tomorrow morning. Oh. And, that's when this winter storm warning is going to be in effect until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And they say that there will be lulls in, how much snow falls. But off and on, we have heavier bands that will be coming through. So you may get a little bit of a respite, but then just expect, it won't be long before another heavier band comes over.
All right. I'm loving it. That's Kenny's got lots of stuff coming up for you as well. This is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com. Go there now and get a powdered supplement for your dog. What? Maybe your cat. Okay, I got a cat. Now, what is it? It is just like you and I would take a supplement. This is the same thing. Instead of putting it in your drink and then stirring it up, boom, you put it on top of their food. Dog food and cat food are dead food. They're built to be shelf stable, to be on a shelf for a while. Brown, not healthy. Green is. Rough Greens has vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9, all this incredible stuff. All you have to do when you get it, open up the package, scoop, put it on top of their food, mix it in, let it go. And you don't have to change the food. You have to cook any food. You have to do anything crazy like that. You're going to see huge improvements in their energy level, in their skin, their fur, their aches and pains in their joints, just to name a few things. Try a Jumpstart trial bag for free. It is a $20 value. They're going to send it to you for free. All they ask you to do is cover the cost of shipping. It is that simple. RUFFgreens.com/Chad. You choose which one you want, Meow Greens or Rough Greens, and they get out to you. Roughgreens.com, use code Chad. Roughgreens.com, code Chad.
Years from now or
No accidents to report here in Metro Nashville. So that a lot of that is the fact that not a lot of people are out there on the roads heeding the warnings ahead of this winter storm's arrival. We have some updated snow total predictions for you, and it appears the U.S. Supreme Court is leaning toward upholding the law that would ban TikTok. These stories and more coming up at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A December surprise, hiring picking up last month. Employers adding 256,000 jobs, far exceeding economists' expectations. The unemployment rate dipping to 4.1%. The strong economy could give the Fed reason to further delay interest rate cuts it had hinted at for later this year, as inflation still remains higher than the Fed's 2% target.
Jobs. How much of this was people feeling confident in what is going on? You know, Trump. There's a little bit of that. The one thing, I always tell everybody, we created a lot of jobs. Trump created a lot of jobs. Jobs under Biden have been pretty damn good. I mean, and I'm not counting the insanity of him trying to count the jobs that came back from COVID. That doesn't count. But it's been steady. It was never about the jobs. It was always about the earnings. If you can't out-earn inflation, then that's a tax, essentially. And that was the issue. But the job market is pretty good right now, and some surprise. But as much as they're like, well, we're going to see what happens with don't think that Trump's not going to bend the ear, right? No matter how much, oh, yeah, I'm going to let them be their own thing and do their own thing. Trump wants low interest rates. And part of the reasons low interest rates are good, at least in the short term, and I'm not even talking about buying houses, is the one thing that they screwed up so big is they should have refinanced all of our debt, the nation's debt, at a lower rate. So we're not paying out our nose as we're doing right now, which is ridiculous. Ugh. Alec Baldwin, what?
Charges against Alec Baldwin in the 2021 fatal shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins were dropped last year after the judge ruled that evidence had been mishandled. Now, Baldwin has filed a lawsuit alleging that the New Mexico prosecutors who brought the case against him were trying to scapegoat him. He alleged all along he pulled the hammer, but not the trigger of the gun that was used. Hutchins' husband and son reached a settlement in their lawsuit against Baldwin in the case. Her parents and younger sister have filed their own suit against him.
It's an interesting thing. I don't think he did it on purpose. I think he was probably screwing around, because if you put a cowboy outfit on guys in a cowboy movie setting with guns, they're going to be idiots. But it was definitely the armor's fault. So we'll see. We'll see if he wins this. I doubt it, but he's going to make everybody nervous and uncomfortable along the way. So hoping that they drop it. Coming up next hour, insurance. The nightmare that is. We'll talk a little bit about that. Bunch of other stuff straight ahead. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're expecting 4 to 6 inches of snow across the vast majority of Middle Tennessee, but a few places could get up to 7, maybe 8 inches. That's mainly west of Nashville, west of 65 and along 40. Everybody else north of 40 and east of 65, you're looking at about 4 to 6 inches before it's all said and done. It continues to fall, but it looks like a lot of folks have heeded the warnings and stayed off the roads today. We don't have any crashes to report right now on the interstates here in Metro Nashville. Got the 4 forecast coming up in 5 minutes. In our nation's capital, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments today on a law that would ban TikTok in the U.S. starting January 19th, unless the platform is sold by its Chinese-based parent company. At issue, national security versus free speech concerns. Chief Justice John Roberts seemed very much to support the idea that Congress can ban a foreign company engaged in intelligence activity from collecting data on Americans. Justice Brett Kavanaugh worried that teenagers using TikTok today, some of those videos could be used as blackmail down the line, potentially to recruit spies. President-elect Trump has been sentenced in his New York hush money case. The case was closed with the judge neither imposing a fine or any jail time. Trump now intends to appeal. The hearing featured prosecutor Joshua Steinglass blasting the president-elect for not expressing remorse for what he called his crimes. Appearing via video conference, Trump shot back, "It's been a political witch hunt. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work." Judge Juan Merchan closed the case without imposing a fine or jail time. He said, "Sir, I wish you Godspeed as you assume your second term in office." And just 9 days until then, the Biden administration today announcing it will allow nearly 1 million Venezuelans and Salvadorans already living in the United States to stay legally for another year and a half. Homeland Security using the Temporary Protected Status Act, citing the environment, weather-related issues in those countries as being too dangerous for them to return. The temporary protected status is already granted to 1 million other people from 17 countries, and its future is highly uncertain under the next Trump administration. And as Joe Biden prepares to leave office, Americans have a dimmer view of his presidency than they did at the end of Trump's first term or Barack Obama's second, according to a new poll. Among supporters of Biden's party, only about 1 in 10 described his presidency as great, while about 4 in 10 called it good, and a similar share described it was average. In the new poll, disappointment was especially palpable among Black and Hispanic Americans who have traditionally leaned Democratic but shifted in larger numbers toward Trump in 2024. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It's cold. It's snowy. We're in here, though. Belle and I braved it, as brave souls do, to join you today to make sure you get all the information you need. So keep it right here when it comes to everything weather-related. Joining us now is House and Senate Majority Leader William Lamberth. And appreciate you coming on, Dave. First time you and I have had a chance to talk.
Absolutely, Chad. Thank you, and welcome to Nashville, Tennessee, where you can experience all 4 seasons in the span of about a week. So enjoy the snow for about a day and a half.
I'm excited about this. My kids are so excited. First of all, they were excited about trees because we came from the Valley of the Dirt People, and the trees are awesome.
Well, we got about every tree you can imagine here. So this is as we get to know each other, and I look forward to coming to your show several times. Please come visit us at the Capitol as well. My father knows every kind of tree by leaf and bark and root and acorn and everything else that you can imagine. So a walk in the woods with my father is like a walk in the woods with a naturalist. It's great. He can point at any tree here, and I'm going to let you guys wander around the woods together, and he'll introduce you to all of them.
It's the Indiana Jones of trees. All right. All right, Majority Leader Lamberth, let's talk about, first of all, we had Jack Jones in the other day. You went with him to the Supreme Court. How'd you like it?
Man, it's pretty awesome. So I'm an attorney is what I do for a living. I grew up on a hog farm in the northern part of my district. We had 6,500 head of hogs when I was a kid. I went from that to being a lawyer. So it's the same basic subject matter. But seeing some of the best attorneys in the land in front of 9 Supreme Court justices that, you know, should be the top of their field, go at it over a bill that Jack and I sponsored after it came to our attention that there were doctors out there cutting the private parts off of little children and putting chemicals into their body that were never intended to go into their bodies. This is insane that, if a child is going through adolescence and having a difficult adolescence, that's the treatment that some of these white job doctors believe should occur. And so we filed a bill just saying, look, don't do that to kids. And to see that in the U.S. Supreme Court being argued about, it was pretty humbling.
I bet. You know, again, you being a lawyer, understanding, have a respect for not just the rule of laws and not being a lawbreaker, but understanding that this is what you do, and it's a sacred thing. You're going into a place that every amazing, you know, stuff that is built and protected for by the Constitution, these people uphold. Were they like oracles? Were they sitting above you?
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, when you go in, you have to check your coats and your phones, and you're not allowed to bring anything in. You get a little pass that's just for you. I noticed folks going back and forth to the restroom. They give you another special pass where you can go to the restroom and back. And the judges come in, they swear in new attorneys, which I will tell you, it would have been awesome if I had thought about this beforehand. You can be introduced and sworn in before the U.S. Supreme Court. It would have been great to, you know, do that while I was there, maybe somewhere down the road. But it was just neat. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's a bill that I'm very passionate about, because when it comes to some of these woke ideologies that are out there in the world, where you have the far left liberals in, you know, California and D.C. and other places that are trying to shove some of this on the public, and I don't think it's worked. It hasn't worked here in Tennessee and won't. You know, it's nice to be able to fight back against that, but we did it in a very common sense way. We said, if you're an adult, do whatever you want to do with your body. But if you're a child, leave kids out of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that resonated with the justices. I really do.
I think so, too. Because you know this, you can, judging by the questions they're asking, you kind of get a feel of where they're going. And you know, listening to some of the highlights, you can tell, you know, I'm thinking it's going to be like 7-2.
It would be nice to think that it could be. I'll take a 5-4 win. A 6-3, based on just some of the questions and what was asked and what was not asked. I mean, I can see it going 6-3 in our favor, because, again, all we're asking is for the U.S. government, who literally, my taxpayer dollars and your tax dollars, were paying for one of the lawyers that was arguing against our 10th Amendment right in Tennessee to pass laws that affect Tennessee children. I mean, we don't allow children to, you know, get tattoos underage. We don't allow them to smoke or drink under 21. I mean, we don't allow them to vote. None of those things they can do, even with parental consent. And so all we're saying is that these extremely experimental medical procedures, we're not going to allow those to be done on our children in Tennessee. And I think the judges really, I mean, they really got that. And in fact, a couple of the judges mentioned what sounded like kind of their own research that they'd done, where they looked at, you know, how Europe had gone down this road and was scaling it back and really pulling back from some of this failed experimentation on kids, where they just mutilate their little bodies. And we had testimony from one young lady in committee where she looked at that committee and she said that her ability to be a woman was taken from her before she even became one.
Yeah.
And it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's devastating. Talking to House and Senate Majority Leader William Lamberth, getting ready to kick off the next session here. You got a lot of stuff that you're excited about. Election integrity. Let's get in on that, because that's one of the big things you're trying to get through.
Yeah, thank you for covering that and mentioning that. So just filed that a few days ago with Jack. So Jack Johnson, my counterpart in the Senate, had been working with this on this with several other members. All of us have really been trying to continue to improve election integrity in Tennessee. We're one of the best in the nation. We're one of the easiest states to vote in and one of the hardest states to cheat in. But there were 15 individuals in Sumner County that were convicted felons that have now been prosecuted. I think 12 of them have been prosecuted because a couple had passed away before it came to light. But about 12 were prosecuted in Sumner County because they were convicted felons. They were allowed to register to vote, and they voted. There were thousands of people throughout the state that the Secretary of State last year sent notices to because they were legal residents of this state and had registered to vote, but it did not appear that they were U.S. citizens. Now, some of those folks may have gotten their U.S. citizenship, but at least a few hundred, after getting that letter, from my understanding, took their names off the rolls. So what we've done with this bill is we've said, look, if you're a legal resident, if you are here legally, but you're not a U.S. citizen, you can be here, but you can't register to vote and you cannot vote. That is illegal. But the problem is their driver's license that they get for legal residents looks the same as yours and mine. When you moved here from, I think you said Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you moved here from Arizona, you hopefully updated your driver's license by now. If you hadn't, you could be in trouble, so please do so. But hopefully you updated your driver's license, and you got a driver's license that looks just like mine or anybody else's. A legal resident who is not a U.S. citizen should have a mark on that license that indicates they are not a U.S. citizen. It's not a scarlet letter or something. It's just something to say this license is good to drive with, but it's not good to register to vote or vote. The same should happen with convicted felons. When a convicted felon goes in to register to vote, right now they just check a box on there that they're not a convicted felon. There should be a system that the Secretary of State, we've asked them to work with the TBI and Department of Safety to set up a system so that they can run that name before they're registered to vote. And if they're a convicted felon, they would not be allowed to register to vote unless they've got their rights restored. Both of those, to me, just kind of make sense.
Well, it's common sense. Look, if I've got to have show my license or ID when I go get cough syrup or some of this other wacky stuff, it's not hard. I got to get on an airplane. I got to show an ID. These are just common sense things, and it's always amazes me that people don't understand that, and the left pushes back. And let's be real, they're really only pushing back because they make it seem like, oh, this is a black thing. It's not. It's just a common sense thing. And by the way, people of color, they have licenses. They can easily get it, and they're fine, and they're not offended by it either.
No, it's ridiculous. By the way, I mentioned growing up on a hog farm and everything else, and at different times in my life, I mean, I've been poor, I've been dead broke. I mean, I've been at the bottom of the barrel, crawling my way back up, and I've had a comfortable life as well, and we live a very blessed life at this juncture. But at no juncture, whether I was rich or poor or in the middle somewhere, could I not figure out how to get a driver's license or a photo ID? Just because someone is poor does not mean they're stupid. And it is ridiculous that the left pushes that on a regular basis because it just shows that they have a complete and totally just separation from reality where they like to live on their high horse in their rich neighborhoods and behind gated communities and tell the rest of us that we're stupid and that we can't, govern ourselves and we need them to babysit us, that we don't deserve a Second Amendment even though they're surrounded by armed guards all the time. I mean, it's just it's an elitism that's pretty disgusting from the far left.
Oh, totally. Well, it's I was telling everybody they've got to make victims because you can't. This. You want to be the hero, right? You have to have a monster. So the Republicans are the monsters. They're the heroes in this story, and they need the victims that they can protect everybody from.
Well, I hate to break it to them, but Americans are not victims. We're gladiators. We're warriors. We fight for what's right. We fight for freedom. We've done it from 1776, and we're going to continue to do it to the end of time. I mean, we're not going to be told that we have to be weak and meek and all this kind of stuff. We're going to boldly charge into the future and ensure that America is still that shining city on the hill that the rest of the world looks to for economic strength and protection. And that's what we're going to do.
Talking to House and Senate Majority Leader William Lamberth. All right, what else are we looking at here as they get ready to rock and roll this next session? What big things you got going?
Yeah, so Tuesday at noon, we will all be sworn in. I mean, those new members, we've got 9 brand new members, and then the rest are returning. So in the House, we have 99 members. 75 of those are Republicans. 24 of those are Democrats. On most things, we work well together, and then a lot of other things we'll have very spirited debates about. One of the things that we will continue to fight hard for is just like the bill you just mentioned, we will fight against illegal immigration. If you want to legally come to this country and follow the rules and go through the process, and yes, there's tons of opportunity for the federal government to make the process better, but the law is the law. If you want to follow the law and come in, you are welcome. But if you're not welcome in Tennessee as an illegal immigrant. So we're going to continue to have several bills, I think, that will help battle that and work with the Trump administration on that. Over the past decade, we have cut $5.1 billion with a B, $5.1 billion in taxes. That's out of a $52.5 billion budget this current fiscal year. So when you look at that, we're going to continue to make sure that the state you've moved to is one of the lowest tax, lowest debt states in the nation. And we're going to continue to still fund all the governmental functions that you need and everything else, but we're going to do it leaner and more effective than other states. I mean, that's 2 things right off the bat that I know you'll see from us.
You talk about that, and you look at something like California. You look at what's going on there. It's ridiculous. It's mismanaged, and I've said this for years, having been I was born and raised in California. The reality is if you took their politics and put them somewhere there isn't beautiful weather 365 days a year, and there's actual weather and no ocean, that politics would disappear. It's basically the grace and the luck of being there, because they are the most wasteful state in the world. And I look over there and I think, why would anybody still want to live there?
I have no idea, but that's one of the reasons why, Tennessee is one of the most moved to states and California is one of the most moved out of states. Because while we're cutting taxes here, we're also, a couple of years ago, we put $3.3 billion new dollars of one-time funds with no debt into our roads. This year, I hope that we're going to do hundreds of millions more. I personally would love to see another $1 billion put into roads this year from surplus dollars, because we do something in Tennessee that every state should do, and the federal government should do as well. When your tax dollars come in, and in this state primarily through sales tax, because we don't have an income tax, thank God, and we never will. When your tax dollars come in, we estimate and do a low estimate on how much is going to come in, and then we spend less than that each year. So the following year, we have a surplus. We do that on purpose so that then we can put one-time funds toward buildings and roads and other, governmental interests that serve you and everyone else. But we do it with surplus dollars instead of running up debt. And we do have a small amount of debt, but it's a tiny, tiny scintilla of our budget, usually around 1%.
Well, that's nothing comparatively to what you see a lot out there. House Leader William Lamberth joining us right now. Before I let you get out of here, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Vouchers. I love school choice, but I came from Arizona, and they showed everybody. I know everybody's, oh, look what they've done. They're showing everybody how not to do it and how to waste money. Have you learned from some of their mistakes? Some of the stuff they've done okay, but have you learned from some of those mistakes?
Absolutely. So Tennessee leads the country in a variety of areas, and I've mentioned some of those today. But in education, it's, we have put approximately $3.8 billion new dollars into K through 12 public education over the last decade. This year, after we put in additional dollars for teacher raises and some facility funding, we'll spend more than $7 billion a year on approximately 965,000 children that are in public schools. We have about 75,000 kids that are in private schools. So instead of a huge program with runaway spending like some states have seen, we're going to have 20,000 scholarships that cost about $148 million, $149 million. And 10,000 of those scholarships are for underprivileged kids that are under a certain poverty level. 10,000 be open to anyone. And then we're going to look at that program. And if folks utilize those 20,000 scholarships, we can down the road increase that by 5,000 a year, but only if the funds are there in the budget and we decide to fund that. So of the over $7 billion that we're going to spend on K through 12 public education, we're going to spend about $149 million on these 20,000 scholarships. Now, the difference between what we're doing here and most other states, this is not a traditional voucher. It truly is a scholarship. Vouchers take money from a public school, and the money follows the child to a private school. What we're doing is the public schools will never lose a dime because of this program. There's a provision in this bill for disenrollment where a public school will not lose money. But we will have the 20,000 scholarships that will fund out of the budget for school choice options in this state. And so then if that works, we can grow it later, but it will be at a measured growth that we know we can afford in the budget.
Man, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited for all that's coming. We got Trump coming in not too long. What are we, 10 days away from that? And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And, of course, you guys kicking it off soon. Thanks for coming on, Dave. Great meeting you. I can't wait to actually meet you in person after the snowpocalypse gives up. House Leader William Lamberth, thanks so much today. You have a good one, and stay not so snowy.
Thanks, Chad. Have a great day. Look forward to meeting you. And thank you for having me on today. And again, welcome to Tennessee, the land of freedom and low taxes.
Amen, brother. I appreciate that. A lot of stuff still to get to. It's good talking to him there. More on what's going on outside because the snow is building. It is. I can't even see. It's that. Look at that. It's like Buffalo. Looks like Buffalo outside. I wish we had Buffalo's football team. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I mean, come on. That guys.
Why? So they wouldn't suck so bad?
They're so good. Did you see that the Rams game got moved? They moved the Rams game to Arizona because of the fires.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's really, when you think about it, that's kind of tragic that they had to do that.
Yeah, you play and to win a home game, and then but your city's burning down, and some of the players had some issues. So a lot of stuff we're going to squeeze into on this Friday, but we've got all the traffic. Ken's got everything for you. What's going on outside? This is Super Talk 99.7. Raycon, best earbuds around. Wear my Raycons every single day. When I walk here today in the snow, got my Raycons on. Fit, feel, comfort. You know what's neat? I tell everybody this. 8 hours of talk time, 32 hours of battery life. I can't even remember the last time I charged them. They go forever. The fit and the feel, the sound quality, active noise cancellation. And here's the other thing. When I say a price that won't break the bank, you're going to pay 2, 3, 4 times as much to get, some of these she ones. You think, oh, this or that. And let me tell you, it isn't worth it. It isn't. The fit's not as good. You're going to get stems and wires. No, this is what it's all about. Solid, built like a tank, comfort, and amazing sound quality, including things like multi-connectivity, fast charging. It's got it all. Get yourself some Raycon. Save an extra 15% and get a 30-day happiness guarantee. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad today to save an extra 15%. Buyraycon.com/Chad. It's snowing outside. It's nasty outside. Eventually, this is going to go away, and you're going to look out there and go, oh, my God, did anything happen, right? You want to make sure that your house is taken care of, especially when it comes to water, your foundation, what is going on underneath there. You got to call USS, especially to make sure that everything's going on, because you might know right now, I got a little something going on, and it's probably going to get a little bit worse. Call them today, 615-488-7855. Why is that? Your yard slopes, maybe, right? You got the slopes, your water, the root, the flowway, does it or doesn't it? So when the snow melts, what happens? Do you have a sump pump? Is it in the basement, crawl space? In the event your pipes burst, what happens then? That's why you need USS, United Structural Services. I want you to call them today if you have any worry about anything. Don't let mold, wood rot, any of that stuff really freak you out, because you're going to be working with people that have been around for 30 years, 30,000 customers that absolutely swear by them. Call them today. Go to 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. Or check them out online at USSTN.com.
Meta is the latest company to change course on DEI policies. This story and more coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's funny, Mandis texts me. Goes, did you just tell Chris that my studio looks like I'm broadcasting, like with a fake background? I said, yeah, I did. He goes, I did. Why? Now, I haven't seen, what are you broadcasting on? Are we getting you, Ken, too? Are you broadcasting via picture as well as sound?
No. Well, I am on Zoom. I'm not. I don't think I'm on our platforms, but I'm just here in my cozy little breakfast nook.
Are you
got my little?
Are you in jammies?
TV here. What's that?
Are you in jammies, man? Are you just chilling in your pajamas?
Oh no, I do have a pair of sweats and a t-shirt on. I showered today.
Hey, that counts as soft clothes.
Soft?
Definitely soft.
Yeah, I've got sweatpants on. I do, but that's only because they're in style. Sweatpants are in style, people. I'm here to tell you guys the sweatpants are in style.
So are pajamas.
Yeah.
I went commando today.
You did? Yeah.
No.
He went commando. That's how dangerous he is. So, because you know what?
Right.
It's good, though. Like, I make sure every morning, because I get up early, do my show, I treat it like I'm going to an office, even though I'm going to my home studio. Because if you don't separate it, man, you could get super lazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can, man. I mean, I've worked from home off and on, and I always found it, you know what, just get up and do your regular routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Or save and all of that stuff, or yeah, you can get into some bad habits.
No, when I was doing voiceovers, man, there was times I would go do a voiceover, and I was really in my pajamas. I was just like, eat a donut, just, coming up next is bloody blood. And then I'm like, I gotta do this better.
Yeah.
I gotta try a little bit harder. And then I made that decision. And like I said, you have to. And even, because I have friends who work from home, like pretty much everybody does now, but they've done it for years, and they get in a suit and tie.
Mm-hmm.
Like they go through the whole thing because they want to feel like they're at work, because it's a bad habit, man, if you get into just, I'm only going to wear sandals today.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, goodness me. What do you got coming up a little bit? More on the snowpocalypse?
Yep. More on the snowpocalypse. Definitely, Nashville's definitely getting hammered right now compared to Murfreesboro.
Man,
it looks like visibility is really down for you guys up there.
I will say, I'm looking across, so we're in the studio looking out over the right shoulder, and I will say I can see the building across the street, but not much further past that. That's how good it's coming down. I'm loving this.
Yeah, and that's how it's going to be, man. It's going to come in waves. Like, there'll be some lulls, but then just know that there's another wave coming.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. I want the big snowpocalypse. It's great. I send pictures to all my friends, and I'm like, look at what I'm looking at out my window. I got snow. And if you come from a place, because my wife goes, when's the last time you really had snow? And I said, honestly, I played soccer in Europe. That's been 30 years.
Wow.
That I was in any kind of snow. I mean, so yeah, I'm loving this just like my kids are. And by the way, my wife just sent me a picture. They're sledding on the roof. So on the roof of our building, nobody parks up there. And it's got one of they got the ramp that goes up. Nobody's there. They're sledding on the roof. They're living their best little lives. They're
having a good time.
They're having a good time. Ken's news coming up. Keep it right here. It is Super Talk 99.7.
Yeah, 1:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we're still looking at about 4 to 6 inches across all of Middle Tennessee before the snow stops around, looks like tomorrow morning sometime. Actually, the vast majority of this thing may be over with around 9 o'clock tonight, but then after that, you might have some intermittent snow showers. So 4 to 6 inches across all of Middle Tennessee today. Some heavier amounts, mainly west of 65, talking about Dixon and Waverly. You could get up to 6 to 8 inches over in those locations. Traffic coming up here in 5 minutes. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments today on a law that would ban TikTok in the U.S. starting January 19th unless the platform is sold by its Chinese-based parent company. And it seems that a majority of the justices are leaning toward upholding that law. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, confirming today it plans to end some of its DEI policies. The company to stop an effort to work with third-party suppliers that are diverse-owned, Meta said, adding that it would roll back a diverse slate hiring program that ensured a diverse range of candidates was considered for each open role. And after receiving a briefing from state and federal officials at the White House today, President Biden announcing more aid for the fire zone in Southern California. The president saying FEMA teams are providing immediate financial assistance for the displaced, $750 checks initially. 153,000 people still under wildfire evacuations there in LA as the high winds have subsided for now. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Nice. So, Belle, earlier we asked the question, how long would it take to eat an elephant? We were both wrong. According to this, if we were to try to eat an elephant, so that means 50 bites, which is about average for a meal, 3 meals a day, it would take us 7.3 years if we ate nothing but elephant for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I don't think they've seen how I cook.
I mean, that's a lot right there. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a lot. Goodness me, baby. Mark Zuckerberg, who you just heard, they're done with the DEI stuff, was on with Rogan today. And they got into it about misinformation, disinformation, all the stuff, and the pressure that the Biden administration had put on him.
These people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of out there.
Oh, did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They wanted us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, for this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that down. And we just said, no, we're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating and coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
Because that's what they do. Put the pressure on. And everybody gets mad. You run a business, you're trying to do something, it's about putting pressure on. It is all kinds of full court pressure. And it's all implied. They don't say it, but it's implied. It's like, you can do that, or you can choose not to. I don't know what will happen. That feels like a threat, because that's what it was. And both sides have always tried to manipulate the media in some way, shape, or form. They've both tried to do it. But this wasn't the media. These were people. It was you and I. And that's the frustrating part. And I think he feels there's safety to come out and talk about stuff. And I think we're seeing a big shift. As we talked earlier, I think the shift is coming in California in a major way. Will it be enough to see a Republican win? I don't know. Really depends on how Trump does in the next few years and what continues to go on there. But I think we're going to see a big shift in a lot of ways. And a lot of it's not even just about being conservative or MAGA. It's just about common sense. You know, the whole thought process of the people out there who want stuff, take that down or don't do this or because it's misinformation, blah. I don't care if it's misinformation or disinformation. If I'm serious about a subject, I'm going to do my own research. Now, some people aren't. There's a lot of people out there, maybe even some of you. You want information, you want affirmation. You're not interested in, you don't want information. No. Give me just affirm my belief. I'd like to think that most of you are not that way. You want to know what's going on. You want the truth. And both sides have a way of telling you, like the score, like it's a baseball game. How'd you guys do? We scored 8 runs. How'd they do? We scored 8. So what was the score? Well, we scored more than 7, but less than 9. How'd they do? We scored 8. And that's giving a portion of the story. And that's I think the most frustrating part out of all the stuff over the last 10 years and the proliferation of social media and media in itself onto social media. So you got the social media, it was just supposed to be fun, and I'm going to post a picture of my sandwich and send it to my grandma and stuff like that. Well, now we know what it is. But I think the fact that the media's got on there, then you know, people became citizen journalists, and then people realized they could profit by saying crazy stuff. You got to dig deeper than ever before to find the truth. And going to the establishment media, well, they're only going to give you their score. What'd you guys do? We scored 8 too. Well, you got to start putting stuff together. That's the frustrating thing. Because everybody's got a way of omitting certain things that they don't really want you to hear. And they may have the best argument of the bunch, but they're not going to give you the whole truth. And sometimes people don't even have a really good argument. They just believe it. And that was frustrating because, to me, if people spread misinformation, that's a them thing. And a lot of times, most people, again, their belief is affirmed, and then they share it. People who are just all about disinformation, and there's plenty of people out there about disinformation. Plenty of people who knowingly put stuff out there that is an absolute lie because they want likes, clicks, and they know they're going to get a certain group of people that will never challenge them, which I find fascinating. I follow some people, and just because, you know, like Belle, you and I were talking yesterday, we got to know where crazy is, right? Like crazy. People will put stuff out there that is an absolute lie, and I go right to the comments to see if anybody's shot back at the, you know, so-and-so's dead. No, he's not. No, he's not.
Well, he's dead to me.
Yeah, but they're not talking about that. But then you'll see 40 comments that all say R.I.P. I'm like, you didn't think for a second, if only there was a machine that I could use to check and see if this information was real.
I think you finished that sentence at the word think. You did not think.
No, there's so
And then they're just going with it.
Because there's a couple people that put out the most insane stuff politically. Some of it's just entertainment, like, you know, oh, rest in peace, so-and-so, or Donald Trump is going to da-da-da-da-da, and man, yes, he should, or they're going to do this to Donald Trump, and, you know, that's the BlueAnon side of stuff. And it's not real. It's just not. But I'm a grown-up. I saw that. I thought, it's not real, and I move on. I don't need you to come in and babysit me. I don't. And the same thing went with, like, COVID, the vaccine. Get it? Don't get it. That's a you thing. Do your research. I don't care what you're putting in your body. You should do some research, right? You should maybe go, all right, hey, you know, it's like my wife, she wants to give me like a vitamin. I'm like, what is it? What's it do? Who makes it? What's in it?
She grabs the vitamins and goes, I just updated your life insurance. Take this.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, you know, she'll hand it to me. And she's like, Chad, it's Fred Flintstone. It's not going to kill you. Okay. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know who's this Fred you're talking about. But I want to know. You should always want to know what you're putting in your body. And if you don't want to, okay, that's fine. But it is so amazing that the left in particular believes that we have to have a nanny. Somebody's got to get out there and because you're too stupid to understand yourself. You are? You can't understand what's going on. You know, you're doing a disservice to everybody if you don't think they can go out and actually maybe check on some of the information. I always do. If I get information, I don't care what it is, from the right or the left, I want to, and part of this is the fact that, you know, I debated. I always go, I'm going to go to the opposite side. I want to see what they're talking about. I want to see what they're missing. I want to see what this side is missing over here, because everybody's got their position, and let's see exactly who's leaving out what. And for my beliefs, I love challenging my beliefs, because I find that the more I challenge my beliefs, in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, my beliefs not only stand up, I feel more confident about my beliefs. So, it's and it goes back to, again, being smart enough to understand when somebody says so-and-so is dead, going, maybe I'll check it. Or such and such just happened. Maybe I'll take a look. What can you do, though? And, man, both sides love to give their own scores. It is just great. It is fantastic. By the way, somebody just said that Girl Scout cookies Thin Mints are $7 this year? What?
Worth it at twice the price.
Really? Is there a no-go for you on those? Like, what's the price of the no-go?
Like, you're asking when I would stoop to stealing them?
Yeah. When would you knock the little girl over and take the Thin Mint?
$30.
$30. $30 is it, man. At $30, I'm saying no. I'm saying
at $31.50, she's getting clocked in the head and losing her the cookies.
What did they used to cost? I buy them, but I always buy like 10.
I vaguely remember back in the late 80s buying them for like $2 a box.
Yeah. Man, goodness. It's inflation, children. It's hitting everybody, even them. Last night, there was a football game. And I'll tell you what, it was fun to watch because the college football playoffs are going on. Tennessee, we did not do well. That being said, 10-3 at halftime. Penn State makes it 10-10. Then they go up 17-10. Then Notre Dame ties it. Then Penn State takes the lead. Notre Dame ties it again. Then their quarterback, Penn State, when they were driving, they had 3 timeouts, threw the worst pass of his college career. Notre Dame only had about 15, 20 yards to go. And they've had kicking woes all year.
Snap and hold are good. The kick is good!
So tonight, we have Texas and Ohio State. My money's on Ohio State. They're the best team in college football. They have from top to bottom, they got NFL players all over that field. And my money's on them tonight to win. And it'll be Ohio State and Notre Dame. And that's going to be pretty damn cool because I love college football and I love the playoffs. I think it was great that they brought the playoffs in. I'm sure they'll tinker around with it. But it has been a success. And the numbers, television-wise, shows that it has been. And tonight it's being played at Jerry's house, Jerry Jones's house, AT&T. But they've got the same thing we've got, which is big snowstorm, lots of sleet. So I don't know what they're thinking it's sold out, but how many people are going to get there and how many people couldn't get to Texas because of all the canceled flights? Because for whatever reason, people can fly out of Boston, people can fly out of, like Buffalo, but flying in and out in certain places to Texas is becoming an issue because they're just not set up for snow like many places are. A lot of stuff still to get there. We're going to try to squeeze a bunch of stuff in, including more on Trump next hour. Today, he was sentenced. We'll talk a bit about that and why that's a good thing. And I know some of you are going to be like, I can't believe it's not a good thing.
Have we gotten any update on the schedule for the internment camps for all the haters?
No. That should come out next week, including the times that we can start. At what time can we officially throw the nets around the women and take them home and chain them to the oven and make them make babies? I don't know what time that's going to be. We're going to find out, though. I'm sure
you're going to have them make babies in the oven?
Well, we're putting a bun in the oven while they put, food in the oven is what I'm saying. It is the Chad Benson Show at Super Talk 99.7. We're just talking about college football. It's playoff season right now. NFL this weekend. How about getting with Prize Picks? Now, I use them all the time. It's so fun, and it's super easy. You don't want to miss a chance. And this is a chance, unlike betting in a certain way, you have a chance to win 1,000 times your money with Prize Picks, and it's easy. So what you do is you go and you set your lineup. And so for me this weekend, I might look at something and say, all right, you know what? I think Stafford from the Rams, I think he's going to have 250-plus yards. And I think, Darnold from the Minnesota Vikings, he's going to have 3 touchdown passes. So it's that simple. And away you go. And you win big. Now, here's the other great thing. When you use my code CHAD, so you download the app, super simple. Use my code CHAD. they're going to give you 50 bonus bucks right away. After you set your first lineup, it's $5. You have $5 in, they're going to throw you 50. That's it. So what are you waiting for? Now's the time. Grab your phone, download the app. So simple, so easy to do. Dive in the action. Don't forget to use code CHAD when you do. Play your first $5 lineup. You get a $50 bonus right there. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Well, we did so well for at least a couple of hours. I think this may be the first traffic incident I've had to report. But west of Nashville, we've got a crash going 40 westbound, blocking the right lane there in Waverly. Closer to town, Whites Creek, we have a disabled vehicle blocking the right lane. That's going to be 24 westbound near Briley Parkway North. Coming up, I've got the latest snow totals prediction. Meta is the latest DEI rollback company. All this and more, too, on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Supreme Court, are they going to save TikTok?
The biggest thing they could do is they could assure the Apples and Googles of the world, we're not going to enforce it. Don't worry, you're good for now. The question is going to be, is that enough for them to say, okay, they're telling us that they're not going to enforce it, but boy, these fines are very substantial if someone does decide that they are going to start enforcing.
And it's about enforcement. That's the big thing. So ByteDance owns it. They're supposed to be separate from China. They're not, because you're never separate from China. People come here when they're babies and are raised here. And if you're 33, you got a wife and family, you're an American citizen, grandma and grandpa live in China, there's going to be a knock at the door. They may ask you to get some information from something. They don't ever forget. And they will come at some point in time. So to think that they're not looking is silly. That being said, my phone spies on me. I mean, it's... Yesterday, we talked about, was it Fall Guy? Was it yesterday we were talking about Lee Majors?
Yes.
I go home, and I got to pull some stuff off YouTube. The first video that pops up, Lee Majors, Fall Guy.
I've had that happen a lot, too. It's gotten to the point where I've turned off the GPS tracking.
Yes.
So it doesn't store where I've been, because it's nonstop. You sort of get used to it because you don't really sense it. It's not really happening in real time in terms of you perceiving it. So you just let it go, and they end up with everything that is on your phone.
Yeah. It's bizarre that, everything's listening all the time. Your TV, that's the weird thing too, right? So I get why that we should get rid of it, and I got zero problems banning it. And even if they sold it, and this is the thing, it's not about the app itself. It's about the algorithm. There's something about that algorithm that is amazing, and they would never give that up. And I know Trump wants to try to figure out how to save it.
They can first try to repeal it, right? They can try to get Congress to repeal it. The problem with that is it's really a popular law. It was a bipartisan law. It would be very hard for the Trump administration to convince Congress to say, oh, you know what? That law we passed, we're gonna retract it.
I don't know what they're going to do. So that was one of his promises. He wants to try to save TikTok because I think he thinks, man, this thing really helped me. I don't know. Maybe that's why he and Zuckerberg are close. He's going to force him to give it to Zuckerberg. Oh, my God. If you're missing the show, Bell says, shame. That's what he would say. He's got his hands in the air. He's being arrested. This is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7.
Two o'clock on the dot this Friday afternoon. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. The snow keeps falling, heavier in some places than others. And it's been a couple of hours since I've had to report on any traffic issues because it looks like a lot of people heeded the warnings and decided to stay home today, stay off the roads. But we do have a disabled vehicle blocking the right lane of 24 westbound near Briley Parkway North. And then west of Nashville on I-40 going westbound, we've got a crash blocking the right lane. We got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. I can tell you that we're still in for about 4 to 6 inches of snow for all of Middle Tennessee. Some places west of 65 could see up to 8 inches. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, confirming today it plans to end some of its DEI policies. The social media giant said it would eliminate a team devoted to DEI, cancel its equity and inclusion programs, and also stop an effort to work with third-party suppliers that are diverse-owned. Meta said, adding it would roll back a diverse slate hiring program that ensured a diverse range of candidates was considered for each open role. Now, this move follows an announcement from McDonald's earlier this week that the company would end its initiative centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion. President-elect Trump's been sentenced in his New York hush money case. That case was closed with the judge neither imposing a fine or any jail time. Trump now intends to appeal. The hearing lasted about 30 minutes. Appearing on screen via video conference, Trump responded, "I am totally innocent. I did nothing wrong." Judge Juan Merchan closed the case by wishing Trump Godspeed as he assumes his second term. And at the Supreme Court, the justices considering a last-ditch effort to block a law that would ban TikTok in just over a week unless its Chinese-based parent company sells its stake. The U.S. government citing national security concerns. Observers say it appears a majority of justices are inclined to uphold the ban. The Associated Press just put out a breaking news alert that around 600,000 Venezuelans and 200,000 Salvadorans can legally stay in the U.S. for another year and a half. It comes 10 days before President-elect Trump takes the oath of office. The Biden administration granting what it calls temporary protected status, which faces an uncertain future under Trump's next term. The 2024 jobs market ended stronger than expected, employers adding 256,000 jobs, far exceeding economists' expectations. And AT&T is working to regain trust with customers, making a pledge to communicate better, including issuing notifications more quickly and efficiently when there are service outages. The telecommunications giant says it plans to credit customers for each day's service disruptions when an outage meets certain thresholds. That's the latest news. Weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So, fire, still raging fire. And Gavin Newsom, Gruesome Newsom, as we call him in California. I know that Trump calls him New Scum. We call him Gruesome Newsom, California. He was on a call today with the president, vice president, upset about, disinformation, misinformation. You guys got to do something about it.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling, that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And that's just a point of personal privilege that I share that with you, because it infects real people that are out there, people I meet every single day, people the mayor's been meeting with, and they're having conversations that are not the typical conversations you'd have at this time, and you wonder where this stuff comes from. And it's very damaging as well. But we're here to get the job done.
You've already done the job. You've helped burn down a vast majority of property. And by the way, some of the wealthiest property on the planet you've helped destroy through your actions and inactions. Well, that's disinformation. It's not disinformation. Not everything you're hearing is true. I will tell you that right now. Because I hear a lot of people talk about this, especially online. Oh, they arrested this guy, and this guy was an arsonist, and they did this, and this. Not all of it is true. That's why I was talking to my buddy last night, a couple of them who are Orange County firemen. They've been called in. And, I said, I asked them straight up, okay, so what's up with the water thing? They ran out of water. I said, I know that they haven't done the stuff they were supposed to with the fitting of they got this big bond that they voted on. And they didn't do anything, really, because of bureaucracy and insanity that California puts people through. And I said, what's up with it? And they said, look, the amount that all these things hold, you were never going to be able to fight this type of fire, this size, and not run out of water. It just wasn't going to happen. You have to get ahead of these things. And so right now what they're trying to do is just let it burn itself to a point where it runs out of fuel. And hopefully the weather will cooperate somewhat. And I said, well, what about the pumps not working and stuff? They said, that's electricity. Electricity was going out everywhere. Once again, poor infrastructure. Hello, California. So this whole thought process of everything was this, that. But those are things that should have been fixed. Those are things that should have been dealt with a long time ago. Even when they've got the money and it's allocated for something, they can't get it done. Do you guys want to hear the most absurd thing? There's some absurd things in California. But they posted on this, so I don't know if you're aware of this. God knows, 10, 15 years ago, they voted to have a high-speed rail from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Now, when they voted on this, it was a $10 billion bond. And the whole thought process was, it's going to be great. This thing's going to go. Because apparently they hadn't heard of airplanes. And so they said, this is going to be awesome. So they're at $100 billion. So that's $110 billion. But they're at $100 billion over budget. They laid 1,600 feet of rail. 1,600. The amount of money they've spent is $7.5 million a foot. There's no train on it. And parts of it, if it was to ever get complete, parts of it, they can't go high speed because the cities have already said you can't go high speed. They passed something that they knew their own appointees in these agencies were going to fight. That's why we're so blessed to be out here. The fact that we've got the freedoms that we have, the fact that we have all of this stuff where we're not worried about, they're going to come stop this, and it's going to be 12 years of trying to get something through the Coastal Commission or something like that is amazing. When I first moved to Palm Springs, I got off at Bob Hope Drive because that's where Bob Hope was. So I lived in Rancho Mirage, and there was an overpass. And, I first moved out there. They were working on the overpass. So they started working on this overpass. They were expanding it from, originally the little overpass was like 4 lanes. They were moving it to, they weren't even moving the overpass itself. They were moving how you get on and get off. I lived there for 9 years or so, give or take. Wasn't finished. Because every couple months they were having to order a new environmental impact. Something, it's an overpass. They were like $15 million over budget. It's an overpass. The overpass was done. All they were doing was putting in the new little ramp things. Still couldn't get it done. It is bureaucracy that caused so much of this. It didn't happen overnight. And yes, they were ill-prepared. And there's going to be a lot of splaining to do. But this was something that took forever and a day for them to finally get a sense of, see what happens when you F around? You found out. When you cut budgets, cutting the $17 million, that sucks. But that's nothing. That pales in comparison to what they've been doing to them for years, because this was a domino effect. This is a former chief in the LA Fire Department talking about that.
Well, typically, if when you make budget cuts, you don't necessarily see an immediate effect right away. Typically, that's something that will happen in a trickle-down effect that will happen later. The timing of this really is just unprecedented. And so when you do have those auxiliary pieces that you cut from around your fire stations and you kind of dwindle dwindle it down to just basically what your fire stations, where they're going to receive the major part of that money, what you do is you basically, in effect, cut your insurance policy. The fire department actually is an insurance policy for a city. And so when you make budget cuts, you're just cutting your insurance policy by pretty much 17% in a sense. And so, we've been pretty much in the past, when I was there as well, been pretty lucky that we didn't have, a recipe for disaster to come in when we've had budget cuts in the past.
A recipe for disaster. So there, by the grace of God, go I. It didn't happen because of luck, not because of anything that the state did, anything that any of these environmental organizations did. It didn't happen because of luck. The luck ran out because this time the winds came at an angle that they never come from in this way. And they came from the north, from Seattle. And that's what's moved all of this stuff towards us and through Texas and everything else. This is what everybody was warning them about. But it's a domino effect. It took years to get there. This wasn't an overnight thing. They started failing the fire department. And the fire department's biggest problem, first of all, for years, it was them when it comes to not having enough men. Because they made it very hard to be a fireman. They opened up very few positions. They wanted to be able to control a lot of what they did because it's pay. You want job security, right? Like you see this in a lot of unions. They don't want to expand because that means more people coming in. Are you going to take some stuff? They didn't want that. So some of that was on them. But a lot of it was after they started retiring, they just said, well, we're not going to replenish anybody.
So in the case like this, one of the other issues is staffing. Another in that, the 3 R's of crisis management and that relationships and recognition, the staffing plan. So when something like this comes up, you have a predicted win event. This is where you're keeping an extra platoon on duty. You're not letting the firefighters go home. And so you're pretty much doubling your workforce. And so Los Angeles has a very unique system in where that we have one extra engine in ladder truck stations where we can actually add 3 additional people, create an extra company, and 47 additional engines would have been created that morning. So that's one of the missed points there.
Very much so. Now, just because 47 would have been created, just because you'd have been, it doesn't mean that you were going to be able to stop this thing. But it's not about, I think people think, well, if they had all these people, it would stop it. No, they wouldn't stop it in traffic. What they could do is mitigate the damage. They could keep it from spreading. Or at least do all they could to keep as much as they could at bay. In truth, once that weather kicked up, and, Bell, you were watching, what was it, that McDonald's, right?
Yeah, there was, and I hate to say this because it sort of sounds unsympathetic, but there was this just beautiful artistic shot of a McDonald's burning down, and you're looking at it going, man, that is just amazing. And then you realize somebody was making their living going to that place, and now their job's gone.
Yeah. And the wind, though, on that thing, the wind.
Oh, it was nuts.
It was nuts. So we're talking 70 miles an hour, and it was crazy how bad it was, and just watching it. So that McDonald's actually was very interesting. Across the street, there was an old folks home. So a bunch of just regular people ran over and rolled the people out, and they had a chance to go to McDonald's or a 7-Eleven. They went to the 7-Eleven. The old folks home burned, and the McDonald's burned. The elderly were fine. So luck of the draw in this. The question is now, what do you do? You can't, the insurance companies have been bailing. We're going to talk a little bit about that coming up here at the bottom of the hour. They've been bailing, and it's understandable because much like the nightmare of clearing the brush, being able to build something. They've made insurance ridiculous as well. And they continue to do that. They continue to make things so hard. And then you have bad leadership. And Karen Bass leads it. I mean, she is the poster child right now for bad leadership.
I think Los Angeles made a mistake. Karen Bass does not serve the interests of LA residents. Some of the decisions are nonsensical, such as cutting $17.6 million from LA Fire Department's budget, but instead prioritizing homelessness, where roughly half of the funds of $1.3 billion was not even spent. And it just doesn't make any sense. You know, where are her priorities? What is her strategy? Where is the plan? She doesn't have one. We need a proven leader that is effective, that understands priorities.
You're not getting it there. And you're not getting it from people who have been in the positions that these people have been in for years with no vision outside of keeping as many people just happy enough to continue to keep you in power while also trying to keep them in the dark, which is totally a move that the Democrats love to do. They love that, right? Like make you a victim, keep you a victim, and remind everybody the only one who can fight the battles for them is you rather than themselves. And then demonize everybody else. You can be in a position where things are going wrong, but that's when real leaders step up. That's when they take accountability for their actions. That's when they step up and lead people. People right now, they want somebody who will listen to them being pissed off. They want somebody who will be there and give them the confidence and strength to think, okay, we are going to get through this. That's what they're looking for. And instead, they got a guy who looks like he's straight out of American Psycho, doesn't he? Really? He does look like Christian Bale, let's be honest. And then you got Karen Bass, who looks like the kind of person that would work at a, like one of those little, like, cheap stores. And she's the person that is behind the counter, and you're not quite sure if she's not quite able to scan the thing right. And you're like, oh, and she just puts it in the bag and kind of gives you, she's useless. People want to know that you're listening. They want to know that you're there. Even if they cause some of the problem or they are the problem, they want to know you're around. And they don't want you bitching to them when they're trying to have their voice heard. A bunch of other stuff. It's Quitters Day today. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Insurance. Why would the insurance companies want to leave California? Oh, we'll talk about that as well. If you miss any of the show, Bell, tell them what?
Shame on you.
Grab the podcast. All right. So that's all we're saying. It is the Chad Benson Show. Super Talk 99.7. Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com. Go there now, get a free bag of Rough Greens. It's a Jumpstart trial bag. Watch what happens when you give it to your dog or cat. So they have Meow Greens, they have Rough Greens. One's for your cat, obviously, one's for your dog. This is going to help, like, your dog, for instance. I was talking to Matt a little bit earlier about this. I said, my older dog, Doodle, he passed away last year. He was past his sell-by date when we got him. I think they lied to us, and they told him, oh, he's like 5 years old, and the Grecian formula wore off, and it was like he looked super old. And then we're like, oh, my God, his hips hurt. I thought we were going to have to put him down. Lo and behold, we started giving Rough Greens. Not only did he last, he spent another 5.5, 6 years happy as can be, living his best little life. It is a supplement that your dogs and cats will love. It's going to help them with their aches and their pains and their joints, their skin, their fur, just to name a few. They'll send you a Jumpstart trial bag for free. All they ask you to do is cover the cost of shipping. It's kind of simple like that. Go to ruffgreens.com. Use code CHAD. That's ruffgreens.com. Use code CHAD.
Okay, the crashes are piling up now. We have several. Got one at Korean Veterans Boulevard, 6th Avenue South. Checking over here at Whites Creek. This isn't a crash. It's a disabled vehicle blocking the right lane, 24 westbound near Briley Parkway. Look for a crash over by the airport. This is 40 eastbound right after Donaldson Pike. Hitting Glencliff. We got another stalled vehicle, left shoulder block there, 40 westbound at Spence Lane. In Franklin, we've got a stalled vehicle, and it is blocking the 3 left lanes of 65 northbound right there at Murfreesboro Road. We've got the very latest news coming up that includes an electrocution while firefighters were battling a mobile home fire this morning. That's coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Based on the jobs its users are seeking and finding, LinkedIn says work related to artificial intelligence is a hot commodity. The professional networking app says the fastest growing job title in the country is artificial intelligence engineer, followed by AI consultant, each of which pays a 6-figure salary.
Yeah, I read an article over the last couple of days about, 41% of people are going to be leaving, being kicked out of the workforce because of AI. No, there's a lot of jobs that they're going to be obsolete, but there's going to be new jobs. And there's a lot of opportunities out there to take AI and use it. And that's what people, and a lot of people are afraid of AI. They are, man. I talk to people all the time. They're terrified of it. They're just this thought that it's over. They're coming for us. And, and it's not. It's not. One thing's for sure, though, if that's not your jam and you're really uncomfortable with it, personality and being able to talk to people, that's what AI can't do. That's what it can't do, and that's where you're going to be able to make it, that one-on-one contact. So I tell my kids, make sure you can chat with people. Make sure you can have conversations with people. Look them in the eyes, talk to them, because that's a skill. That has become a skill. What used to be conversation and some personality has now become a skill because so many people aren't. I mean, kids nowadays, a younger generation, they're terrified to make phone calls. Who's terrified to make phone calls? I did a story last year about a woman that charges $400 an hour. No, not for that. She teaches companies, Gen Z and millennials, phone etiquette and how to use the phone because they're terrified of the phone.
I need to meet one of these people because they're stupid.
Have you never? It's crazy. Like, have a 20-something. Some of them out there are totally fine, but have a 20-something. A pizza. Old school, calling for a pizza. Oh, I don't want to. No, you do it. I don't want to do. No, you do it.
Can't we go through the app?
Yeah, it's crazy. But that skill, that interpersonal skill, where you're sitting there chatting with somebody, man, that's a big deal. That's like a huge being able to. Hey, what's going on? Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about this. Talk to somebody. Look them in the eye. It is. I'm always fascinated by that because when we used to have interns. I don't know, you guys ever have interns?
There have been some in the past. It's been a long while since we had any, though.
Yeah, they'd stop letting me talk to interns because I'd be like, all right, here's the deal. You guys want to be successful? Yeah. A, don't get anybody pregnant. Don't get pregnant. And show up every day to work. That's, you got 80%.
And don't go into radio.
Yeah. Go into management. But when we'd have them come in, they wouldn't talk. They wouldn't say anything. They would sit there. They were afraid. I was like, you're trying to get into a job where you're going to talk on the microphone. And what was crazy is we'd get these kids from ASU. Now, ASU is one of the top broadcasting schools. Cronkite went there. It's a big deal. Most of the kids that go there, they want to do old school journalism or they want to be behind the scenes. Nobody wants to be on camera. Nobody wants to be on, behind a microphone. They're terrified. And then you got the other side of it where you got a bunch of kids out there who are willing to go out in the snow like this, naked, run around and do a flip because they want likes and shares and stuff. But they're not interested in anything real. Oh, it's fascinating. The whole world's fascinating because we have another fire, the Archer fire now in Granada Hills, my buddy just said. So we got yet another fire. I got family in Granada Hills, so this could get ugly. Oh, my Lord. Not just friends now, family. California burning down. Will insurance save them? We're going to talk a bit about that. Some other good stuff as well. It is Quitting Friday. Are you quitting? Now, you quit work today because it's snowing. It's a blizzard now. It's officially a blizzard. As far as I'm concerned. It's really not, but it's coming down pretty good out there. Ken's going to have all the latest news. It sounds like there's some traffic accidents out there as well. We'll be covering some of that. If you're missing the show, shame on you. Grab the podcast. It is the Chad Benson Show.
Shame.
Shame. Super Talk 99.7.
.2:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and all of a sudden, we've got a lot of traffic problems popping up out there. Let's go through the crashes right now on 40. You've got one eastbound over by the airport, then over at Spence Lane westbound. That is actually a stalled vehicle with the left shoulder blocked. 24, we've got a crash here in Murfreesboro. The right lane blocked right there at Old Fort Parkway going eastbound. And another one, 24 westbound near 840, the left shoulder blocked here in Murfreesboro. 24 westbound in Whites Creek, got a disabled vehicle, the right lane blocked there. Down in Williamson County, you've got the left 3 lanes blocked going northbound on 65 near Murfreesboro Road. This is due to a vehicle that is stalled out. The snow continues picking up here in Murfreesboro. It's been very heavy there in Nashville, as you have heard Chad and Bell talk about. Not supposed to end until tomorrow morning. By then, all of Middle Tennessee is supposed to have 6 inches, but some folks west of I-65, Waverly, even Dixon, could see as much as 8 inches of snow before it's all said and done. Had an electrocution this morning in Nashville. A firefighter injured while fighting a mobile home fire. He is in stable condition and under evaluation. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, confirming today it plans to end some of its DEI policies. The social media giant said it would eliminate a team devoted to DEI and cancel its equity and inclusion programs. This move follows an announcement from McDonald's earlier this week that the company would end a few initiatives centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And President-elect Trump expected to appeal the hush money case sentence rendered today. It does not include jail time or a fine, but it does allow his critics to label him a convicted felon. And he can't own a gun. He can still vote, though, now under the special conditions. And the judge in the case, Juan Merchan, closed it by wishing Trump Godspeed on his next term. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Gold is good to have. Not quite sure where things are going, right? Like, could we see a pop in the marketplace, it come down, inflation, could it rev up again? It's always a possibility. Protect yourself with gold. It's been around, I don't know, forever. That's the beauty of gold. Tangible. Touch it right there in front of you. The dollar has lost more than a bit of its oomph, while gold is continuing to move up. It's just a smart thing to do to have some gold. I want you to talk to my buddies over at Birch Gold Group. They're going to send you out some. It is awesome. It's the ultimate guide to gold in the Trump era, along with Birch's free gold information kit. All you have to do is text Benson to 989898. That's simple. Easy to do. They send it out to you. No obligation. just curious about investing in gold. What can it do for you? Can I use my IRA? Can I use some of this or that? They're gonna show you all the stuff they do. And I've dealt in both the physical gold and stuff on the commodities market. And I would tell you, everybody needs to have gold because if the zombies come, it's always nice to have something that you can trade with. You know what I'm talking about? Text Benson right now to 989898 to receive your free copy of the ultimate guide to gold in the Trump era. Don't wait for lasting peace of mind. Text Benson to 989898 today. I hope Matt can get in here today. Why did Matt get here, man? He got here super early.
Oh yeah, he was waiting.
He's
been cautious.
He's been lurking around. He's like, there was nothing. It was easy to get here. I thought it would take a little longer. I'm like, what time did you leave? You were here before I even got on the air. He'll be up here in a little bit. Again, make sure you keep it here all day. It's ugly out there. And sounds like it might get a little bit uglier throughout the day. So just be careful out there. We're starting to hear some issues on the road. There's no doubt about that. Somebody just texted in. Yeah, Walter Cronkite, he went to Texas, but he's got the School of Journalism is at ASU. So we're talking about, kids nowadays, they're terrified of everything. Nobody wants to be in front of a camera unless they're doing something stupid. And nobody wants to interact with people. This is why kids are, good God. Take those phones away. Make them talk to each other. It's amazing. It is. If you put it when I was young, you'd put us all in a room. Man, we're all chatting. We're having. Who are you? What are you about? What is it? Nowadays, they all just stand there.
There was a real funny episode of South Park where they lost internet in South Park.
Oh.
And they went out to L.A. to try to find more internet because it was supposed to be like the Wild West of the internet out there. And Shelly, I think that's Stan's sister or one of the two.
Yeah.
Shelly ends up in one of these refugee camps with her quote unquote boyfriend who lives like, in another state. And when they get together, it's like, oh, I can't believe you're here. Well, I guess I'll talk to you online.
Well, it used to be, you remember what it used to be? It used to be a phone, like, hey, I want to get her phone number. Now it's like, hey, can I get a follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you, so I can DM you.
Remember when you were a kid and you had all those numbers memorized?
Oh.
And now I look at my phone and it's like, I need to call Chad Benson, so I just look for the name because I don't know what your number is.
Do you still know your phone number from when you were a kid?
I do, and it's for the weirdest reason because when I was 6 years old and I was being taken to first grade for some kind of placement tests or something, I was asking my mother, it's like, what are they going to ask me? I'm nervous. And she's like, it'll just be stuff about, colors and shapes and things like that. I'm like, well, what if they ask me my address or my phone number? She's like, they're not going to ask you that. I said, they might. So what's our phone number? And she told me. I repeated it all the way to school in my head. And I still to this day remember what the number was.
I remember mine. And I remember my best friend's phone number. I remember my other best friend's phone. I remember their numbers. My wife, something happened today, and I needed to figure out how to call my wife. I don't even know what her number is. I know a variance of her numbers. How's that? Just kind of, because we've taken that part of that memory away, and that's sad. Speaking of sad, today is Friday. That means, but it's not just any Friday. See, it's the second Friday of the new year, and there is a name for that.
It's National Quitters Day, the second Friday in January, when an estimated 80% of Americans ditch their New Year's resolutions. As always, getting fit is the #1 New Year's resolution. I spoke with celebrity trainer Jillian Michaels. Why do so many people fail when it comes to their New Year's resolutions regarding their health and fitness?
I don't necessarily believe people have the most realistic goals. I'm going to work out 5 times today. It's like, okay, let's crawl, walk, jog, run here. So if you've been sedentary, let's get a step goal in there.
Another top resolution, saving money. But on Quitters Day, many start blowing the budget.
Don't be so hard on yourself. Set realistic goals. Give yourself a chance to celebrate the small victories.
Small victories. And that's what it is. Set up a plan for yourself. Get a buddy, talk to them, you set up a plan. And don't quit. It's small victories. And it's important because we overthink when it comes to what we're going to be able to achieve in an hour, right? You go and you lift weights for 10 minutes and you stand in front of the thing and you flex. Like nothing's happening. It takes time. You didn't get those 40 or 50 pounds overnight. You didn't wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm 225 pounds. That just didn't happen. It takes time to get there. It's the same thing. So you make the little things. You lose a pound here, lose a pound there. It should be the easiest thing when it comes to diet. Eat a little less, move a little more. But if you think about how simple, like if you wanted to lose 35 pounds, right? You're like, okay, it's 3 pounds basically a month. Then you start breaking it down. How much do I need to lose a week? Oh, I need to lose 3/4 of a pound a week. That's it. Over time, watch what happens. But if you think I want to lose 36 pounds by the end of the week and it doesn't happen, then you get frustrated and quit.
And think about how long did it take you to put those 36 pounds on?
Exactly. Not overnight, man. Trust us. We know. It's not overnight. I didn't wake up one day and go, oh my God, I can't even see my feet anymore. That didn't happen. All right? So don't quit. Small goals, set them, win, keep moving, don't quit. It's that simple. We're not quitters here. I'll tell you that right now. Speaking of quitters, California, somebody just tweeted at me about capitalism is the reason that nobody has insurance for their homes in California, and socialism is what's fighting the fires.
That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And not just on Twitter.
No, that is dumb. And he's getting blasted for it because it's an idiotic thing to say. And I say that because California has done this to themselves. They make things virtually impossible for people in many businesses to do any business there. It shows you the difference between us and California, Texas and California. It's crazy. And insurance is a big issue because they control so much of it.
This goes way back to Prop 103, which was an initiative that was put on the ballot that basically limited price increases that insurers could ask for from the Department of Insurance. It made the insurance commissioner an elected individual, and it suppressed pricing of homeowners policies over the last couple of decades. And now we're seeing the result of that basic overregulation of the insurance industry. And I think also an overregulated government that has prevented us from doing what we needed to do all the way back to the Angora fire in Lake Tahoe in 2007 when I was serving in the legislature and warning about how we need to thin our forests and we need to protect our communities.
That's Ted Gain. He is a former legislator in California and sits on one of the boards out there. But California goes and they overregulate. And they overregulate in ways that are so ridiculous. So State Farm, right now, State Farm's the new United Healthcare. So they're the new villain in all of this because they canceled a lot of people's, not everybody's, but a lot of people's policies. One of the things they wanted to do was use the scale, like, the table that everybody uses when it comes to the risk assessment for wildfires and charge based on that. California told them no. So they said, well, we're going to have to cancel people. Well, why are you going to cancel people? Well, because you're not going to let us charge what we think we need to charge to keep to keep us in business. Because as of now, it's $150 billion. That's huge. So when they started dropping people, California came up with something and said, okay, we're going to do the California Fair Plan Act. That is where you pay like Cobra-like numbers, and they bank that, and should something go sideways, they come and help you. Well, this is going to wipe them out. But then they put something in the bill that says, oh, by the way, if we go insolvent, we have the right to go to all of the insurance companies that are operating in California and force them to pay the difference in what they couldn't cover. What? Yeah. So there's a cap on it, but still. So imagine if we're not even operating here. Well, if you want to operate in our state, you got to do this or else. And here's something else, and I think this is not being talked about enough. You want to kick people when they're down. At what point do you look at somebody who lives in Florida on the beach and say, it's a kind of you thing now, right? It's going to come at some point in time. If it happens once a century, once every 50 years, okay. If it happens potentially 3 to 5 times a year, that's kind of a you thing. You live in areas where they've got really bad wildfires. At what point do you have to take some responsibility for living in that area? Now, some of these people have lived in this place for a very long time, but still, at what point is it everybody else's responsibility for you living there?
That reminds me of the Sam Kinison bit when he was talking about Ethiopia. Yeah. Like, we got deserts in America. We don't live there.
Exactly. What are you going to grow here? It's sand. You can't eat sand. So that's, it's like we hear people all the time, like all the rich about, oh, climate change. Well, you live on the beach. So obviously you're not that terrified by it. But there is some responsibility. Now, if you live somewhere for 50 years, okay, I get it. But you know the risk. You do. When I was in California, there's a risk of earthquakes. We know they're coming. But they do a much better job with earthquakes than they do with fire. But you shouldn't be surprised. You live on a fault. If you live in Buffalo, you shouldn't be surprised that there's snow. I didn't see it coming. It snows all the time. So at some point, because when we talk about the big devastation of all this, rarely we talk about the lives of people because there's not a lot of people that die in this. This isn't like, when we saw the big, giant tsunami that killed, that right there is a tragedy and something that was unforeseen. I mean, it's a once in a generation thing. But there's going to be more fires. They're going to put these out in the next couple days and weeks. And then in 6 months, there are going to be a ton more fires. And people start rebuilding those areas. You have to ask that question. You do. Yes, sir.
When was the last year that we went without hearing about wildfires in California?
I can't even remember.
It's such a regular thing now that it barely, if it wasn't for the mass, the level of destruction, we'd just be like, oh, it's California. They have fires all the time.
I cannot remember the last time we didn't have wildfires somewhere in California. So it's been. I really can't. I'm sure there's been a couple where they've been it's a quiet season, but it's a season. It's like hurricanes a season. You know, if 75 years ago there's a hurricane that hits the coast of Florida, nobody cares because nobody lives there. If this was out in the middle of nowhere and this fire is burning, you know what they would do? They would protect the houses and let it burn itself out. At some point, you have to be honest and say, I live in the middle. You know, if you put your house on a train track, don't be surprised if a train comes.
There was a point where they were doing like really stupid stuff in the name of fire prevention, like the way they would manage the underbrush and things like that. And they would put out fires that were like small fires that would clear that stuff out and get rid of the kindling. And they're like, oh, you can't do that anymore.
Controlled burns.
So now it's like it's just piling up and ready to go up in flames.
Yeah, so the controlled burns, because they're probably protecting the ozone layer or something like that. It's where they go and they burn all of this brush in a certain area and they control it because that way, should a fire come, it then essentially dies because it doesn't have any more fuel. And they don't do that anymore. They don't because DEI, people talk about it. The reality is it's all about climate change. It's all that wacky stuff they push there. And they find other things that they can use the money for that keeps other people that pay them essentially through lobbying happy. We'll wrap it up straight ahead. Matt is here. He made it in here. He weathered the storm, and the storm is here. Ken will have information about that. It is the Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Blizzardtopia going on right here. Murph in here, going around, back and forth,
cruising.
back and forth. Cruising.
What is, it's snowing outside.
The weather outside is frightful.
By the way, for those of you that doubt Chad Benson when he tells you that he walks to work uphill both ways, I saw him walking in today. I was here that early today.
Yeah, what was up with that?
Well, I had a couple of errands to run, and I decided just to do it early because I didn't know how slick it was going to be or whatever. And I thought that I would have a nice landing spot in the Super Talk 99.7 WTN green room. Right?
Has that been taken over?
It was taken over today by some mystery fella.
Do we have to fight? Him? Is it the new country western guy?
Maybe. I don't know. I never really got it clear. He was like, "Oh, I do the overnight thing, and I'm doing this and that."
He's the overnight guy for all of Cumulus stations.
Well, and he's got all his stuff in there, and he looks like he's all nested in, and he's like, "I'll leave," and I'm like, "Nah, I don't do that."
Oh, he must have stayed the night here last night because he works overnights, obviously. So
maybe so. So I did not want to disturb him.
Well, you're a very nice guy. What's going on, man? What do you got going on today?
We got a little snow talk. We'll talk about what everybody's doing in the snow, whether or not some of this is going to melt. The idea being that it's 33, 34 degrees outside, and so the fear is that melts on the roadways and turns to ice overnight and whatever. So we'll figure that out. We'll talk about Donald Trump that was a heavy sentence.
Convicted, non-convicted?
Yeah, heavy sentence. Isn't it just like Donald Trump? He's playing this like 28D chess where he wants to do bad things, but he's so brilliant. The bad things that he does that he gets caught doing bring no jail time.
It's such
incredible.
You have to, everybody's like, why did they do this? Well, you have to go through it because two reasons. One, you went through it. You need to see it out because otherwise that's not, again, as bad as the justice system you might not like, but that's what we do here. And secondly, you can't file an appeal until the whole thing's been seen through.
Right. Well, I mean, I could step through the amount of off-ramps that the liberals had in all of this.
Yeah, a long time ago.
We walked through all of they had so many off-ramps. They no longer had an off-ramp. They could have pretended that it didn't exist anymore, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it would have just been in limbo there. So, we'll discuss a little bit of that. And
hey, Matt,
I said,
how do you think Trump handles this situation and not being able to own a gun? I'm sorry, I couldn't even get through that with a straight face.
I mean, he does have 50 people around him that he could order to shoot somebody.
He's commander-in-chief of the greatest armed force in the history of the earth, but he can't own a gun himself.
That is such a bizarre thing. I was saying earlier, he and Martha Stewart are felons. Snoop Dogg, not so much.
We live in a weird world.
We live in a weird world.
It's a very odd, if you think about it, you and I have been doing this a long time. Go back 15 years, which is not that long ago. 2010. And I tell 2010 Chad Benson, a lot of this crap that's been going down over the last, and by the way, they're going to try to shut down the entire world over and over, and they're going to do this and that and the other thing. They're going to demand masks, they're going to drones, and Murphy, who's president? Donald Trump. Get out of here.
Again, because he
after
lost
the thing
and he came back. Yeah, you'd be like, dude, I don't know what kind of world you're living in, but
I don't know what you're smoking. I want some.
Yeah, it's again, the whole thing is interesting in the sense that it played itself out. Even now, the Democrats a lot of them are coming up saying, yeah, okay, it was BS. Like Fetterman. By the way, Fetterman's going to Mar-a-Lago.
I love the fact that he's going.
And he wants to be the Pope.
He wants to be the Pope of Greenland.
I love that.
That's another thing on my bingo card. Who knew that John Fetterman would become my favorite Democrat?
I tell you, he's my liberal spirit animal.
It's so good.
The dress, I love the way he dresses. He doesn't seem to care. And you know what else? I think all the other Democrats look over him and he just kind of gnarls at him.
Oh, yeah, it's so good.
It's great.
And he has a distaste for the media, the same type of distaste for the media. He messes with them in the same fashion that Donald Trump does.
Yeah.
Just a liberal guy. I
Absolutely.
love it. Absolutely love it.
Matt Murphy, straight ahead. You guys be safe out there this weekend. I'm going to go brave the blizzard of 2025.